Hey Lex, how are you?
I'm doing great. How's it going?
Good, good. I see you all over, giving interviews and you're wearing the brand right now. Of course, we're going to talk about the company and everything. We are the Coin Nation Summit, and I'd love our audiences to know more about you, even before you joining the contest. What did you do before? What is your background so people would understand?
Sure. So I think of myself as a fintech entrepreneur. I've been in some version of financial services and fintech and crypto and decentralized finance now since the beginning of my career, where I started in the traditional financial industry as an analyst at Lehman Brothers, and was very fortunate to get that uh, foundational experience to what a global investment banking bankruptcy looks like. And that liberated me early on through the '08 crisis to think that finance needed innovation and change, and that uh, the next generation can and should take the reins on building their own version of what they believe in. And so I started a robo advisor around 2010 called Nest Egg Wealth in New York, which became Advisor Engine, a wealth tech company for financial advisors to offer digital wealth solutions. And that taught me a lot about personal finance, about working with partnering and working with financial institutions, traditional institutions, and some of the kind of like limitations that you get going the fintech route of trying to distribute traditional financial products. And so around 2016, 2017, I went on my rabbit hole experience with blockchain and artificial intelligence and augmented reality. So, kind of the things that are coming together in the metaverse by in 2021, and really fell in love with Ethereum's computational capability around digital assets and digital objects. And then joined ConsenSys around 2019, where I've done a bunch of things, from building out the fintech product team, co-leading that, as well as running marketing for about a year, and now focused on economics and kind of taking token economies seriously, and thinking of how to bring decentralization to things like MetaMask and Infura and some of the larger brands that are underpinning the crypto ecosystem.
Sounds like a very cool job. I know
Yeah, it's
you
very
really
easy.
love
It's
this.
no stress at all. Just kind of lean back.
No, no, it's I know that I was listening to many interviews of you, and I know that you really believe in this, in building this future of a new financial structure with Ethereum and everything that you are doing. By the way, I share the same passion. You know what? I came also from the fintech, and I went into these blockchain worlds and crypto, and now we're organizing the summit after we had four fintech nation summit with all the players you already know, the incumbents, the neobanks, all of these. And I needed something new, some new challenge, some new, vision. So that's why I like your background here, that you came from this world, but you really want to build something new, right?
Yeah, I think this is a narrative that I share often. So maybe it'll be familiar at this point, but whereas fintech really focused on the distribution of existing financial assets, meaning you can use this app instead of using a broker or a financial advisor or a loan officer. Just download this app and get your loan or your trade. We say this as Robinhood. Uh, just IPO'd and was taken to the moon by its army of Reddit meme officers. But still, it's largely distributing traditional assets. And so, for me, the exciting thing about the decentralized infrastructure and the crypto ecosystem is that the manufacturing for how people make asset management product or banking product or payments is sort of finally new, is finally modern, and gets around many of the issues in the payment rails, in core banking and portfolio management, with an architecture that's that's appropriate for where we are today with the state of technology, rather than something that is embarrassing to pretty much everyone who manages it or builds it or has to interact with it. And so I think that is, if managed well, if the space kind of goes through the regulatory pressures that it's under, and continues to favor building and innovation over speculation, I think we're going to get to a place where the world's digital economy from start to finish runs on computational blockchains as its chassis. And whether those are the same shape or not as the ones that we have today is kind of a separate point, in the sense that, are databases the same as they were 50 years ago? Of course not. But the architecture of what the next 50 years looks like, I mean, right now is being written and articulated. And so it's a very interesting space.
So of course, what's going on, what's going to come up. Probably you're talking to these institutions. If you can, give us few examples of things that are open in the public that you did already, working with institutions, with the incumbent, with, I don't know, CBDCs or stuff like that, so we can understand the applications and how is it new.
Yeah, this is a really difficult question to answer, because the answers don't persuade people. Like, a person who hears the evidence often isn't persuaded by it. There's a much more emotional tribal thing going on about being progressive with technology, meaning change is good, tradition is bad, versus being conservative with technology, meaning tradition is good and change is bad. And so I feel that most people's reaction to blockchain comes from that. Comes from the gut and their lizard brain. It doesn't come from any evidence. But putting that aside, I guess what I would advise people to do is, when you're evaluating any sort of concept, evaluate that concept on the terms of the people that give it to you, right? So don't use your own filter. Try to figure out what is the framework that your counterparty has, and then tell it to yourself from that perspective, and see if you can find anything that is valuable or resonates with you. So in particular, for Ethereum, and for blockchains more generally, there are kind of two tracks. There's the public mainnet Web3 version that claims to be the internet of value, that claims to go from Web 1, which is flat HTML websites in the 90s, and then Web 2, which is the 2000s and 2010s, where the web has turned into software, right? Where our productivity suites and our social networks are software based and in the cloud, to Web 3, which is the internet of value, where not only are applications there, but they are financial and commercial, and then they're also structured in such a way as to give sovereignty and privacy and end of the day dignity. I think in some sense human rights back to people using applications, right? So when you today interact with Web 2 applications, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, you're not an agent, you are a subject, in the sense that you bring no rights into that system, because you're entering that system, and it's like you're photocopying your credit card and you're putting it into a box that the software system has with everybody else's photocopy of their credit card and their passport and so on and so forth. So Web3 flips this in a way that allows people to come into venues and have their identity, their money, every permission in their hands over how the robot that you're interacting with is going to interact with you, and what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And so, it's a big transformation, and this is what public Ethereum is about. And of course, that's a $200-300 billion market cap asset. It's 150 million addresses that are on chain, about $120 billion worth of cash and equivalents in the form of stable coins, and about $80 billion worth of decentralized finance assets. And so it's a chunky sort of world of global participants. if you don't see use cases in that, then again, you're coming at it emotionally, because whether it is the ability to bank, lend, invest, asset allocate, insure, or whether it's the ability to create non-fungible tokens and use them as avatars on your identity, or the sort of economic or media games that people are playing with them, there's an economy that has emerged there. And it's, at this point, I would say it is so obvious as to be impossible to miss. Then there is the other side of Ethereum, which is private and permissioned. And this is the enterprise world today, and it's the government world today, where traditional actors who are responsible for the more conservative view on technology, are more comfortable with a version of blockchain and smart contracts that are run by sort of, let's say, trusted parties or elected parties or governed parties. And I don't have a strong philosophical bent here, other than just to say that the folks who are exploring that side of the world are well-meaning and are trying to drive change as well. They just have a responsibility that is different from the anarchists, and their responsibility is consumer protection. It is promises, like their status as elected bodies or as businesses that have earned the trust of their customers comes from their implicit promises to keep people safe, well served, and to be customer centric, and so on. And so that means regulation, AML, KYC, compliance, and other things that are there in order to structure society and have a well-functioning order. And again, there's a conflict, obviously, between anarchy and structure, but this is at the core of the universe and the human condition, right? This yin yang of back and forth. Anyway, all that to say, within the private permissioned world, as ConsenSys, we've set up numerous consortia in trade finance, things like, Comgo, for example, and a number of others, Covantis. We run the Quorum Enterprise Network underneath, what JP Morgan and a number of other market participants use for kind of wholesale interbank payments. We're working now on, I believe, somewhere between 5 and 10 different CBDC, central bank digital currency proof of concepts. And so, how do you have either retail money or institutional money that is blockchain anchored? And so for us, these are really important projects. Of course, they're commercial, but they're important projects because they create a bridge in the future between let's say the incumbent economy, which continues to be the large majority of economic activity, and then the fully digital software economy, where we're seeing much faster growth, but at the same time, it requires a platform shift. It requires change in the behavior of its participants, and so, for us as ConsenSys, that bridging is really one of the things that we're trying to defend, and we think is important for the future of like this actually being a mainstream technology.
Mm-hmm. By the way, we are the Coin Nation Summit, so we have people here watching us right now. Regulators, central banks from all over the world. Not only the wallets, or not only the cool DeFi projects, or the blockchain companies, or NFTs, or crypto exchanges that are watching us. So I asked around. I asked our top speakers about the topic of CBDCs and who should I get on the summit, and all of them gave me your company. All of them told me that you guys should be on. So yeah. Obviously you're known and you're working on these global projects.
Yeah, and I think it's what we try to do, and ConsenSys is a deep tech company. Because people conflate software and then the asset class that the software produces, and it's kind of like conflating. Let's say you have a machine in a factory that makes widgets, and you can't tell the difference between the widget that the factory makes and then the equity share in the factory. These are different things, and so And then also there might be some sort of token or currency that you put into the machine in order to have it operate, right? So Ethereum is that thing that you put, Ether is that thing that you put into Ethereum in order to have it operate computationally. But then you can also take the blueprint of this factory and kind of replicate and apply it to different things, and so I think what we bring to the table is this idea that there is some core innovation that is happening, right? And not a single company, whether it is Facebook talking about the metaverse, or whether it is IBM with Fabric, or whether it is Corda and R3, no single, even if it's Ripple, no single company can out innovate literally the full open source human spirit. I mean, it is nonsense to think that you're going to get the same pace of innovation as if you harness the hundreds of thousands of people all over the world who are contributing to these open source code bases and essentially building the financial version of Linux, for everybody to use.
I was just thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, ConsenSys sits at the core of that with our developer tooling, helping people build new software, then helping run it through Infura on Ethereum nodes, as well as helping users, of which there's, I think now somewhere between 5 and 10 million monthly average users in MetaMask, to actually take advantage of this new decentralized software as a crypto wallet. And so what we as ConsenSys do is bring all of that packaged and made available to the institutional segment, which has to interact with a sector in a slightly different way, right? In a more, let's say, bounded approach. And so we're not a crypto brokerage. We're not a company that's just trying to sell people tokens, right? We're really thinking about the transformation of society and the deep tech underneath it. And I think this is one of the reasons that, whether it's in France or in Hong Kong or in Australia, all over the world, institutional actors are choosing to work with us to tap into the innovation, but then really do so at their own pace. And for us, this is key because we think the world will suffer if there are different disconnected blockchain solutions, proprietary, bespoke, strange blockchain solutions that connect to nothing, if those are used by governments rather than a global public open standard with the correct bumpers on it for everybody to interact correctly.
Very smart. And yeah, I think that no company can do it alone. And the idea of having a coalition of thought leaders and brands and to distribute this technology together, to have a standard, makes more sense. And I saw that your company is involved in so many things. And I think I saw like an academia or something, or all kinds of events that you are having every year, right? Like, it's huge.
Sure. I guess the answer is yes. We're active. We're active, in the spaces that we care about. So we largely that's education. So ConsenSys.net has a lot of webinars and resources and academy training for people who want to learn how to code decentralized applications, or for business people that want to understand how to access the DeFi asset class, or for government actors thinking about what's the role of a CBDC and what are the architectures that are available. So we do a lot of education, certainly with the folks of persuading, with the desire to persuade people to do business with us. But again, it's coming from the heart of Ethereum in terms of what it is that we're trying to promote. And I think the difficult thing about the crypto ecosystem and kind of this blockchain transformation is that it's not like you're trying to say, let's do payments better and I've got a better payment system. What you're trying to do is very multidisciplinary. And so because you're so core at the infrastructure layer of assets and truth and how software runs, so you're really at that bottom layer of all this computation. And so that means a very multidisciplinary approach. It means you have to be really good at understanding law and society. It means you have to be really good at understanding financial and economic systems and supply and demand and game theory and how that's modeled. You obviously have to be really good at computer science and software and cryptography. And then once that comes to the mainstream, which it has in pretty strong force, you also have to understand media and sociocultural forces, and video games and what Generation Z is doing on TikTok, and so it's a very dynamic environment in which to be in, because you're touching all these things, but it can create this impression that we're sort of everywhere. And that's the intent. The intent is for large social transformation that makes the digital world that we inhabit not a feudal dystopia where we are farmed for our attention with massive robot algorithms, but rather a place where you still have individuality, you have agency, and maybe you trade away some of the things that you get for free, but are in fact empty calories and make you unhappy.
Amazing. I can talk to you for hours, and all these metaphors or examples that you give from the history of humanity, and then and shifts like this financial shift and what you're predicting for the next 5 years or 30 years. I think it's super interesting, and I have to be honest. I interview a lot of people on this summit. Like, you're gonna see the list of people, and I love to share these stories with you, and I think that many of our viewers right now would love to connect with you. Where is the best way? I know that you personally are very active on LinkedIn. I think this is how I first met you. Where is the best way to follow the company?
Yeah, of course. I try to make myself easy to find. So Lex Sokolin, either on Twitter or LinkedIn. And then, of course, ConsenSys.net to understand what ConsenSys does, thus the t-shirt and the brand. But I would also encourage folks to go to metamask.io and just download a browser extension that's literally the key to this new ecosystem. It's super simple to use, and it intuitively shows you what it is that's available out there. I also do a bunch of writing at fintechblueprint.com if you want to get some philosophy and futurism in your email box. So happy to connect with anybody that's interested.
Amazing. And I didn't mention, I'm a fan of MetaMask. I talk about MetaMask every day. I think it's amazing. It's powering up all these amazing creativity on the web. We are interviewing so many, exchange NFT, marketplaces and stuff, and they all use MetaMask, and they're all here on the summit. So stay tuned. Of course, people would love to connect with you, and thank you for your time and your leadership in this space. I'd love to have even more interviews and to put the information out there and to educate with you. I think it's amazing.
Very kind of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.